everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Dr. Movie. And I'm not by myself this time. I've got my buddy, my first co-host to come on the show, and I couldn't think of anybody better than Mr. Brian Sammons, the writer, the author, the horror master himself. Brian Sammons from Horror in the House of Sammons, a great podcast you need to check out. Probably before you need to watch this one.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
And thanks for inviting me. I love talking about this movie, and I love podcasting with you. So,
well, hey, man, can't get any better than that. So, this movie is criminally underrated. It's such a great movie. So, I didn't even do this while ago, but what's not to like, right? You got Daniel Bannon involved. Also, you know, the team that worked together on Alien.
Yes.
Working on this. You got Stan Winston's effects. Now, this is not Stan Winston's workshop. This is Stan Winston.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know what you're getting there. And I have to say, Melody Anderson, you know me.
Yeah. That was one of those things where as soon as it started, I'm like, oh, yeah, her.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's what I said, too. Oh, yeah, her.
Also, for the horror fans out there, keep your eyes open for Robert Englund.
Absolutely. Yeah.
He doesn't have a huge part, but it's not just a cameo.
But that's kind of where he kind of hovered at this point in movies, right? So
yeah, before the Freddy thing took him off, this is just kind of what he did.
Yeah, just little bit parts. And but yeah, this movie, like I said, criminally underrated. It feels like an episode of maybe Twilight Zone. A big dash of Night Gallery for me in there. I don't know. Did you grow up a Night Gallery fan?
Oh, yeah. I love that show.
Oh, me
Even
too.
the not very good episodes, because there were a few, but they were still something about them.
Right.
They're worth watching just for his opening alone.
Absolutely.
Where he's in the gallery. And
the artwork, man. Those things were creepy. How about that? The opening with the faces and all that stuff, too? Creepy. All right, speaking of creepy, this movie starts off with this guy out taking pictures. We're basically, looks like we're in Maine, somewhere like that, very harbor town kind of place. And dude's out here taking pictures of nature. And then this hot blonde shows up and is like, hey, how about you take some pictures of this?
Expect a horror movie, there's going to be a guy killing people or something, or maybe a monster. You don't expect the whole town to show up and just start murdering people, and it's so vicious, too.
Man, very, very brutal. Like I said, Stan Winston doing the effects here. And they basically just whip this dude with a tire iron and some shovels. They strap him to a post, wrap a fishing net around the guy, then pour gasoline on him. Then this other lady walks up and just lights a match and sets him on fire, and they're videotaping the whole thing.
And they all seem to be relatively happy. The people in the crowd smiling. The guy who pours the gasoline all over our soon-to-be burnt dude is like, hey, welcome to Potter's Bluff. And, you know, it's just they seem like normal, happy people, and yet they're burning somebody alive.
Yeah, and like you said, just proud to do it. So, you know, so next time you're driving through and you think about, man, cities are dangerous. I don't know, man. There's a reason these small towns don't grow.
Oh, yeah.
And if this is the reason why, then you might want to stay away from them. The coroner comes to pick up the body, and the body's in a car all of a sudden.
No, they're doing it to make it look like an accident. It's their attempt to try to hide the fact he was burnt at a stake. So they throw him in the car, and it's like, oops, accident. And the strange thing and horrible thing for the guy is he's still alive. They didn't finish the job.
Yeah.
So he's a crispy critter, and
coroner reaches in, man, and just goes, raw. It's a great jump scare, man. It's great. But the next morning the sheriff is going to the little diner, and everybody's kind of talking about what happened. And while he's sitting there, he's sitting with Robert Englund, all these people. Then all of a sudden the waitress comes up and says, I think what happened is horrible. And then the camera goes up to her, and she's the one that threw the dang match on the guy.
Yeah, you figured there were some people in town who did it because they look like normal people, but you weren't expecting that. So that was a good reveal.
Right. And it just keeps rolling from there. That's another thing that's brilliant about this movie. This is 81. This is when it was the year of the slasher. Everybody was making a slasher flick, and this thing is more stylized, very well written, very well made.
Oh, yeah.
But it's just as brutal as anything that came out.
So I think you can definitely see the slasher influence with the kills being more bloody and more... I mean, there's one guy who gets acid pumped into him.
Yeah.
And so his whole face, like, bubbles up. And there's somebody else who gets slashed across the face and the throat. Yeah. I mean, there's some good gore in here.
Yeah, the old drunk guy, right? That talks about boats all the time. I've spent my whole life on boats. He just keeps talking about boats. There's like, somebody kill this guy. And then they did.
But you can tell... I think this is based off a novel, or at least I know there's a novelization of it. Right. And you can tell this wasn't a slasher film, and it's not really. There's a mystery of why is this town killing people, and you do... I guess we'll get to it. Yeah. But I like how it reveals things, because at first you just think it's a kill crazy town, but as it goes on, more and more stuff starts to go, wait, that don't make sense.
Right. And the sheriff is the one you're taking the trip with, and it seems like everywhere he turns, things just get a little weirder all the time. He goes to the hospital because the screaming meatball is still alive. They've got him in a hospital. And come on, if you talk about anything in this movie, it's the eyeball scene.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, wrapped like a mummy, and the only thing is exposed is one eye. And the blonde that approached him on the beach, just dressed like a nurse, and comes in, and the panic on his face is unreal. And what's funny, it's not even a real dude. That whole thing's a puppet.
Really?
None of those scenes are a person. It's all a puppet.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That was damn good, but that's Stan Winston for you.
Exactly. And, man, she walks up with a syringe and a needle about, 6 inches long, and just bop right in the eyeball.
And again, she's so happy about it. She's like, I'm glad to see you're still alive. Oh, don't worry. This will make you feel much better. And then...
Yeah, man. It's one of those things that you're surprised that people don't talk about it more. No. But again, I feel like this movie just didn't get its share. It's one of those late bloomers. The ones that have found it really love it. And it's because of all these facts. And another scene, too, when the hitchhiker Chance, the girl that gets picked up and they beat her to stone her to death. And
what I like is the movie has the guts to, while they don't show it, it's pretty much... They wipe out a family. This family comes to town, and then everybody's all happy and nice and smiling. And, oh, we'll get you some gas. And, oh, you just want to go down that road there. And then next thing you know, the whole town's coming out to kill them.
Oh, this is where you really get a turning point, too, because when the family's at the restaurant and they say they need gas, the guy that runs the gas station turns around, and it's the guy that was killed at the beginning, the eyeball dude.
Yes. This was the guy. He was burnt over 90% of his body. His face was so badly burnt that all he saw was the eyeball. Then he was stabbed through the eyeball and killed, and now he's sitting at the counter eating his dinner. And he looks totally normal.
Yeah.
So you're like, what the hell's going on? And then that's what I mean when I say the mystery just keeps building. So obviously it's not just a town full of crazy people. There's something else here.
Right. And that's why it's so hard to talk about this one. And I don't want to give the big reveal away of what's really going on, because it kind of ruins the fact of you going and checking it for yourself. So I'm going to try my best to dance around it, and Brian will slap me if I go too far. So you got the sheriff trying to live a normal life in a small town. I can't help but think of Roy Schneider in Jaws. It's almost the same type of character where he's an outcast. He doesn't really feel like he belongs, and he doesn't understand why all this stuff is happening in this little town. And then you got Dobbs, who's the coroner there, the guy that runs the mortuary and all that stuff. And Dobbs is the guy that was in Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory is the grandfather that laid in bed all the time and got a golden ticket for sitting on his ass.
And he's a great character because you can tell he's strange. I mean, obviously, in every movie ever made, morticians are always weird. Right. Because they work with dead people, I guess, all the time. So death doesn't bother him. Gore and horrible stuff don't bother him. He's always listening to his classical music. He's getting upset when people get closed casket funerals because he doesn't get a chance to work his art.
Yeah.
So he's a good character. Everybody in this movie does really good work, I think.
It's solid acting, man. And again, it's just one of those things that you're not used to seeing. You know, I did a little research on it as well, and they talked about bringing back Class, coming from the Universal monster movies into the Hammer stuff, and they just felt like that kind of got dropped along the way. And they were really trying to reintroduce that. It's such an odd time to do it, like I said, with all the slashers, because substance didn't really matter. I mean,
no.
You and I love all the crazy movies that have no substance too, but you can recognize when somebody's put a real work of art together too.
Oh yeah. I like how this movie has adults. And, you know, most slashers were about killing high school kids or college kids or something like this. Here, there are some kids, there are some young people, but most of them are in their 30s, 40s, 50s. I don't know. It's not a teeny bopper slasher flick. These are real people dealing with this strangeness of what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fantastic. And like I said, Sheriff is married to Melody Anderson. She's a school teacher, and he's rumbling through the house looking for some bullets, and he finds a book on witchcraft.
She explains that, I'm teaching it to my kids.
Yeah, the dagger and the whole thing. Yeah, it's just for class, right? They're bored. They're bored with what we're talking about. So, but yeah, man. And he actually goes up to talk to her and looks in the classroom, and yeah, sure enough, she's teaching the kids about voodoo.
Another thing about this movie is it does a good job of showing you you can't trust anyone, or at the very least, you don't know who to trust. Because right from the start, there's shade being cast on his wife. Now she's, she's very supportive, very loving, very taking care of you and all that. But people like, in regards to that first guy who's all burnt up and then eventually stabbed in the eye, they're like, oh yeah, your wife saw him. And yeah, go talk to your wife about him. She knew him. Right. And she's like, oh yeah, I just met him once. But then you find out what she tells her husband, the sheriff, isn't exact truth. So you're like, okay, what is she hiding and why is she hiding it? Because she wasn't on the beach with the crowd of people killing people, but just why is she hiding something from her husband? So he is very paranoid, very nervous, and he doesn't know who to believe in this town. He can't even believe his own wife, and that's great. Yeah. And it just keeps getting deeper and deeper. And, it even shows, you were talking earlier about the family kind of gets wiped out. I guess the idea is the kid bumped his face, because that kid is just, crying the whole time. And like, we need to get some ice for his swelling or something. Yep. But I like the idea that when they go in his house, it is clear nobody's lived in this house for a long time. Right. And there's dust and cobwebs everywhere. And they're still wandering around, hello. But it's for us, the audience, that's telling us one more thing about this town.
Right. And also, if you ever get in this situation, you go in an old abandoned house and nobody's living there, and your wife says, hey, go in the basement and check the fuses.
Yeah.
You say, no, we're getting out of here. And tying back into the classroom, when the sheriff's wife is teaching the class, she goes over to one person, talks about one of the kids, and tells them about the way that the owner of the zombies, the way that they kept ownership of them was to cut out their heart and to hide it.
Yep.
Yeah. And when he's telling that, it shows the kid she's talking to, and it's the little boy that was from this family.
Mm-hmm.
The whole family's been killed. So there you go. Even this family is somehow now part of this community.
And we'll even have one scene, and it's a great scene. It's a great display of practical effects where somebody gets killed, and then you see the mortician getting ready to fix the body for viewing. Yeah. And he does it, and you see, he scrapes the skin away and all that stuff. It's real gory. It's real, not necessarily bloody because dead bodies don't bleed, but it's gory. And it shows that everything is fake. It's basically just the skull, and then they build everything else up with clay, and they do all these tricks to make it look alive.
Right.
And then the mortician leaves, and somebody else you don't see comes in, kind of like waves their hand above, and next thing you know, the woman gets up.
Yeah.
So okay, obviously something's going on.
And the fact of you go through this transformation thing, it reminds me of the old like Lon Chaney kind of werewolf transformation for some parts. But then when she's almost completed, and he takes that hook and hooks her eyelid and pulls her eyelid back and sticks the eyeball in there.
Mm-hmm.
Looks so freaking real, man.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, okay, all right, wait a minute. Because I could tell earlier it was fake, but now that looks real. But what he's doing doesn't look real, or shouldn't be real. So, again, it's more puppetry stuff. Stan Winston was really pushing the limits of using, puppets is the word that he liked to use. So... It really messes with your head because it looks so real that you forget, wow, that's got to be fake because you couldn't really do what he was doing there. So
no.
It's great work, man. It is fantastic work. Also, the bum that gets hit out in the street by the sheriff and it rips his arm off.
Oh, yeah. And then the arm is sticking on his grill, still doing this.
And it tries to grab the sheriff, and then the one-armed, drunk guy jumps up and like
karate chops him and then grabs his arm and runs away.
I mean, it just adds to more confusion of what you're watching here. That, wait a minute, we even separated body parts now, and we're just acting like, hey, give me that back. Another piece that we've kind of missed here is this whole debacle about this roll of film that his wife is wanting the sheriff to go and have developed, or... yeah, she gets him to go drop it off at the drugstore. I guess that's where you're still, because it's so Mayberry. This town is Mayberry, is what it is. I mean, all the music, all the clothing, and everything makes you feel like you're in a different time. And they do a good job of kind of putting that stamp on it because it's hard for you to even really figure out what time frame this is supposed to be. Yeah. Even the technology they use are like. Could be 60s, could be 70s, could be maybe 80s in a small town. It all kind of blends together. But he sends his film off and tells the guy at the drugstore that don't let anybody else pick this film up but me because I want to see what's on it. And man.
It's more misdirection or maybe direction depending on how the movie goes. But it's implying more about his wife. Because she's the one, hey, this is just some pictures that my students took and blah, blah, blah. But you do know there's a whole bunch of people going around killing people, and they're always taking photos. For some reason, there's always 3 or 4 people out there snapping pictures, taking film. So now she has this roll of film she needs developed. Yeah. So he's like, huh.
Yeah. He finally gets the film. He comes back home, pulls out the old film projector. Again, it's that fine line of where are we at time-wise. Throws the film on, starts watching it, and it's found footage, man. I mean, that's another piece of this I forgot to mention, but this has a little tip of the hat of what we now consider popular, which is the found footage thing. So he's watching this footage. It's in black and white, handheld, and it's these people walking up to this old abandoned house, and he sees a couple in bed, and then all of a sudden the girl's on the bottom, and you just see a knife come up and stab this guy in the back. And when the body rolls over, it's his wife.
Yep. And that was a great reveal.
Oh.
Because, again, she's been nothing but perfect, nothing but sweet, caring, supportive, the whole 9 yards. She's a great teacher. She's a great, wife. And now she just stabbed somebody. Yeah. And everyone's there. Once again, you get the whole town showing up filming this.
Yeah, they're all like celebrating and high-fiving. And
I like how wonderfully evil they are, because they take joy in doing what they do. It's not like, oh, we got to do this, or we're being forced to do it. No, they seem to have fun doing it. They're always smiling and stuff. When the family is in that house and they get surrounded by the townsfolk, they keep opening doors, and you always got somebody on the other side of the door with a knife and a big old smile. Right. So, these crazy bastards are enjoying, butchering people. And again, it's not just a little stab. Okay, there we go. No, they smash people's faces open. They burn people. They use acid. Yeah. It's like they're out to hurt people.
Yeah, and they killed the doctor, which that guy played Paul Burmaster in Kentucky Fried Movie. I mean, every time I saw him, it's like, hey, that's Paul Burmaster from High Adventure. But, yeah, man, they're just celebrating all this stuff. And you're trying to figure it out again, just like you were saying, because at one point you're thinking, well, they're just enjoying this maniacal thing they're doing. But you could almost say they're enjoying it because they're growing their population. They're creating more people for their town.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really...
They're only doing it to outsiders. They're not doing it to each other. So if you happen to come to this town, your number's up.
That's right. Yeah, that's for sure. It's hard to get into much more detail past this. Yeah. It really starts getting into the reveal. But folks, I'm just going to say, if you have not seen this movie, you need to track it down immediately and watch it. I don't see how a horror fan of any kind can't come out of that going, wow, that was pretty dang awesome.
Yeah, it keeps you guessing. It has a good supernatural element. It has good slasher elements. It has good kills. It has good characters. In this movie, it does pretty much everything, and it does it well.
Let's just say that M. Night Shyamalan wishes he could have a twist at the end like this.
And that's what's great, because it has the one twist towards the end a little bit where you see the wife, and then there's something else waiting for you at the very end, which is really cool.
Yeah. So I don't know what else to say about it without giving it away, but I've always been a fan of this movie, and it's one of those deals, man. You walk in the video store, you went for the cool artwork, take it home. Does it match what's on the cover? Not really, because it's so vague, but it's so intriguing. But man, it delivers on such a different level.
It's very atmospheric. There's a wonderful sense of weirdness, that whole what the hell's going on. This is really much I would call it a hidden gem. I think it's still hidden today. Now, I think for anyone watching who has Shudder, you can find it on that. So it's widely available there. Other than that, I know it's on DVD or Blu-ray. I highly recommend it.
Absolutely. So there you go. I don't know how, you can hear my opinion of it, but if Brian Sammons is telling you that he highly recommends it, it don't get much better than that, folks. Well, I think we're going to stop right there. Man, I sure appreciate you coming on. This has been a blast. I always get a lot more out of movies and stuff when I hang out with you and get to hear you talk about them. And also when I'm listening and I'm talking back to you in the car when I'm listening to y'all's show. Hey, real quick, tell everybody where they can find your show at, man.
Oh, well, we are on Horror in the House of Sammons, which you can find on Anchor.
Yeah.
And pretty much you can find it on anywhere that there's podcasts. It's me and my wife, Jamie. She's been doing this podcast thing much longer than I have been. And we talk about movies that are hidden gems. We talk about a personal collection. And then we usually have a discussion in there, answer some questions and all that. It's a good time, and we get to spend it together, which is awesome.
Absolutely. And what about some of your recent stuff you've put out literature-wise?
Oh, I do have an anthology that I edited. It's called Tales of Arkham Sanitarium. It's coming out through Dark Regions Press. It should be releasing soon-ish. As far as my writing, my stories, I just had one published in an anthology, somebody else's book, called Let the World Drown. It's all based on seafaring, ocean horror, and my story in it is called Father's Day.
Awesome. Yeah. You don't like the Lovecraftian stuff at all, I know.
Oh
no. Well, folks, again, thanks for checking us out. Brian, thanks for being a champ and coming in here and hanging out with me and talking about this awesome movie.
Happy to do so, and thanks again.
All right, folks, we will check you later.